Y'all don't even know what's going on, so why y'all speaking on y'all don't know? You snitching.
Kodak Black got everybody questioning what's really going on with him. Boosie jumped online with a post saying Kodak needs help, and that's when things got real personal. People started arguing in the comments, but Kodak wasn't having it. He fired back like, you don't even know what's going on, so why you talking? It was getting heated fast.
I'm a realist, bro. Like, I'm a realist.
Instead of brushing it off, Kodak decided to handle it his own way. And man, his next move didn't just surprise people, it straight up shocked them. Nobody saw it coming. The real clash started in February 2026, when a wild video dropped of Kodak performing at a show in Texas. He looked totally out of it, so much that security had to hold him up. Reports said he showed up 9 hours late, and within hours, that clip was everywhere. Boosie saw the video and instantly jumped in the comments saying, Kodak needs to get it together. Boosie dropped a comment saying, dude need help, for real. And just like that, their whole beef was right back in the spotlight. This wasn't even the first time Boosie had something slick to say about Kodak either. He's been doing this for months, even years, and every single time he runs his mouth, Kodak fires right back at him. So this time, Kodak hopped on camera and spoke directly to Boosie.
You snitching. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of little shit like, friend, come on, man.
No middleman, no filter. He called him out for always talking about him in public like he knows what's really going on. Kodak made it clear that he sees himself in a certain light, and Boosie going online acting like he's some wild, out-of-control dude, that didn't sit right with him at all. But what Kodak said next had the whole hood buzzing. He straight up said, you snitching. That one word hit like a bomb. Everyone knows in the streets, calling somebody a snitch is no small thing. It's a serious blow to someone's name. Kodak wasn't saying Boosie was sitting down with the feds or anything like that, but he was accusing him of doing something just as bad, airing out another man's business for clout. In Kodak's eyes, that's its own kind of rat behavior. He told Boosie straight up that going online, running your mouth about another man's life, his struggles, or his habits, that's a violation, period. Kodak was done with the disrespect and wanted Boosie to stop playing with his name.
Stop playing with me on this internet. I swear to God. Real for real.
For real, that was Kodak keeping it 100. No sneak disses, no cryptic bars, none of that. He looked straight into the camera and told Boosie to fall back. Then he doubled down saying he doesn't get into anybody else's mess the way Boosie stays up in his. Kodak was like, I don't even be trying to care about you. And right then, he drew a line in the sand. He was basically saying, I don't jump online talking about what's going on in your house, so why you keep putting my name out there like that? Kodak wasn't just ranting, he made it personal.
Try to see, I don't be trying to tell about your business.
Bringing up his own family and how they've had to deal with people running their mouths. That hit deep. When Kodak said you, it wasn't just a question, man, it was a challenge. He was connecting Boosie's public comments to something way bigger than rap drama. This wasn't just about clout or headlines to Kodak, it was about respect. He felt it in his soul. Kodak made it clear that he wasn't treating this like some playful back and forth. To him, it was like getting told on in the streets. And where they come from, that's one of the lowest things you can do.
It's my brother got told on. Homie, I got told when I was in carjacking. What is you?
Meanwhile, Boosie was already out there addressing the whole situation his own way.
Like, all this shit I'm going through right now, like, man, I shouldn't even have no energy for this shit, bro. Like, I'm going through real gangster shit.
Boosie had already gone on camera admitting that fans were pressing him hard about all the topics he'd been weighing in on, especially the Young Thug situation, and about Kodak constantly coming for him. But Boosie said he had way bigger problems to worry about. At that point, Boosie had the feds breathing down his neck. He was facing federal gun charges with a sentencing date coming up fast, and he made it clear he didn't have time or energy to get caught up in Kodak's drama. He said he was focused on his real-life issues, not internet beef. Then Boosie dropped one line that changed the whole energy. He said, me and Kodak both trying to eat off the same plate from the same people.
I can't be going back and forth on no internet, bro. Like, especially, yeah.
That one sentence made everyone stop and think. That line hinted that Boosie wasn't coming at Kodak as an enemy. He was talking like somebody who thought Kodak should understand the grind they're both on. They're both hustling in the same game, chasing the same bag. But Kodak wasn't feeling that at all. He saw Boosie as a dude who just couldn't keep his name out of his mouth for no reason. And Kodak wanted it to stop once and for all. Then Kodak hit back with a line that summed everything up perfectly. I don't care about you, you rap. That was his mic drop moment.
You know, I'm trying to get the same thing you got from the same people. And you know that, bro. Come on, what type of shit you on?
Kodak made it clear that he didn't see Boosie as anyone with enough juice to speak on his life. He saw him as just another rapper, plain and simple. This whole beef wasn't about music or who had better hits. It was about one man telling another to quit talking crazy in public and the other one just refusing to back off. This latest round in February 2026 was just another chapter in a story that had already been heating up for years. This didn't start here. Not even close. The roots of this whole mess go all the way back to 2023, and what happened that year lit the fuse for everything that followed.
I give a fuck about you in the screen, you rap, you.
Before all the disses, the live rants, and the public call-outs that got fans taking sides, Boosie and Kodak actually had something that looked like respect. Back then, it was more of an OG to young bull type of vibe. Boosie had spoken highly of Kodak in interviews, calling out his raw talent and saying that Kodak had that it factor, the kind of sauce you're just born with. Boosie even told a story about pulling Kodak aside once, giving him some real advice from the heart.
Kodak Black just got arrested.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was high off something. He fell asleep in his car. When the police pulled up,
He told Kodak to get out of Florida before the streets swallowed him up, warning him that the chaos around him was toxic and only bringing more drama his way. That was Boosie talking like a big brother who'd already seen too much. It was the kind of real talk that older heads give to the young ones who are too deep in the game to see what's coming. Boosie said it out of genuine care, knowing Kodak might not listen but still needing to say it. And to Kodak's credit, he later acknowledged that he even rapped about it, saying he used to look up to Boosie. But that one line, that simple moment of respect, didn't stay pure for long. It got twisted, flipped, and turned into a diss later on down the line. What started as mentorship turned into tension. They didn't have to be best friends or hang out every day. There was still that mutual respect in the air until the summer of 2023. That's when everything burned to the ground, and it all came down to one name that carries more baggage in hip-hop than an airport carousel: Tekashi 6ix9ine. The name that flipped the whole game upside down. In July 2023, Kodak shocked everybody when he linked up with 6ix9ine for the track Shakalaka. That move had the entire hip-hop scene talking. See, by that point, 6ix9ine had already made himself one of the most infamous figures in rap history.
they say that he had a mouthful of cocaine.
Yeah.
If that video comes out, if they had a body cam, you see Kodak.
The guy who took the stand in federal court and pointed fingers at his own crew. For most of the culture, that stamped him as off limits, radioactive. Nobody with real street credibility was supposed to be anywhere near him. So when Kodak decided to collab, people were stunned. The song instantly split the internet. Some said it was just business, others said it was pure betrayal. But for Boosie, this wasn't something you could just agree to disagree on. This was about the code. Boosie didn't hold back one bit. He jumped online and went scorched earth on Kodak for working with 6ix9ine. He made it crystal clear that he wasn't giving Kodak any kind of pass. Not for money, not for clout, not for fame, nothing. His words were sharp, straight from the chest, and full of conviction. Boosie basically said that no amount of cash could ever make it right to jump in the studio with someone who broke one of the deepest rules in street life.
With a mouthful of cocaine,
That
that's
was
going to be
big.
the biggest meme of 2024.
Loyalty. To him, that move wasn't just a bad look, it was straight up disrespect to everything real ones stand on. Boosie didn't just stop at calling Kodak out, he went way harder. He started questioning Kodak's whole street background, hinting that maybe Kodak had never really lived the life he rapped about. And coming from Boosie, a man who's actually done time behind bars and earned his rep as one of the most authentic voices out the South, that hit different. This wasn't just rap talk anymore, it was personal. For Boosie, this wasn't about one random collab. It was about what that collab represented. In his eyes, it looked like Kodak was willing to trade everything he stood for just to grab a check. That's why Boosie came so hard, because to him, loyalty and respect were supposed to be untouchable. But Kodak wasn't letting that slide. He clapped back by reposting a clip calling Boosie a clown, making it clear he wasn't stressing over some OG trying to act like the morality police. Kodak brushed it off like Boosie was just another older rapper trying to stay relevant by telling the younger generation how to move. That's when the tension between them turned into real smoke.
I don't laugh because I don't laugh at people's troubles, bro. I mean, I got my own troubles.
That first round of shots set the tone for everything that followed. Boosie took the role of the street code enforcer while Kodak flipped it on him, questioning whether Boosie even had the right to check anybody in the first place. The energy got crazy after that. By August 2023, Boosie had officially taken things to wax, dropping a diss track called Ungrateful. The song went directly at Kodak for teaming up with 6ix9ine, accusing him of wrecking his own name through reckless moves and fake alliances. It was raw, it was bold, and it came from a place of real frustration. You could feel the emotion.
He said that he doesn't do cocaine, he does meth and perks. Like, this is somehow better. Like, he said, I ain't no junkie.
Boosie sounded like a man who wasn't just rapping, but reacting to something that genuinely cut deep. Boosie made it clear, in his eyes, Kodak wasn't just making a bad business move. He was flat out violating the culture they both came from. Ungrateful was Boosie's way of turning all that anger and disappointment into a record, his first real lyrical strike in their feud. But just when things couldn't get any messier, the money talk entered the picture in November 2023, and that's when everything went nuclear. Boosie came forward accusing Kodak of straight up jacking his sound, sampling his music without asking, without clearance, and without a shred of respect. Suddenly, this wasn't just a street code issue anymore. Now it was about bread. What was already a personal war just turned financial. To Boosie, that was another slap in the face. As if working with 6ix9ine wasn't enough, now Kodak was allegedly profiting off his catalog while they were still beefing. That accusation changed the whole dynamic. What had started as a principle-based feud turned into something that hit both pride and pockets. When money gets involved, things get a whole lot harder to fix. And Boosie made sure everyone knew he wasn't letting it slide. So all that smoke from 2023 rolled straight into the next year without a single break. By February 2024, Kodak fired back with a new joint called 11 a.m. in Malibu, and it had a clear shot aimed right at Boosie. The track reignited everything just when it seemed like the flames were dying down. Kodak's tone was sharp, confident, and personal, like he wanted Boosie to feel every bar. And of course, Boosie didn't stay quiet. He responded quick, standing firm on his stance and doubling down on the same message that Kodak had lost sight of the code and the culture that built him. The back and forth was heating up all over again, and the fans could feel that this feud wasn't anywhere close to done.
Like I told y'all before, man, even when me and Kodak had, I won't see him get help, bro.
Boosie kept saying Kodak was fumbling the bag all by himself, wasting his own talent with one bad move after another. In Boosie's eyes, Kodak didn't need enemies because his biggest problem was him. By March 2024, Boosie was on every podcast and interview he could find, saying Kodak's career had been in a downward spiral ever since that 6ix9ine collab. He framed Kodak's recent run as a full-blown case of self-sabotage. For a quick moment in 2024, though, it looked like things might actually cool off. Boosie surprised everybody by saying he was done beefing. He went public, wished Kodak the best, and even called out the media for always trying to pit black artists against each other just for clicks. It was a mature move, real talk. Like Boosie was ready to let the whole thing die peacefully. If both of them had just chilled right there, the feud might have ended for good. But that peace didn't last, not even close. That so-called truce was shaky from the start, built on thin air. Because the 6ix9ine collab wasn't the real problem, that was just the spark that lit the fuse.
Hey, look, I know that shiny skin that...
What does shiny skin mean? What do you mean?
It's like a drug addict.
The thing that kept this fire burning was something way deeper, something Boosie had been watching with concern for a long time. The drug issue. See, while the 6ix9ine situation blew up publicly, what was happening underneath was what really bothered Boosie. He'd seen the videos, the interviews, the erratic moments, and in his mind, that was the real problem. If the collab was the explosion, the substance use was the constant flame underneath it all. Boosie might not have said it outright every time, but his tone told the story. Every Kodak needs help post, every time he said something's off, that's what he was hinting at. To him, that was the hidden reason behind Kodak's behavior, the thing making him spiral, and that's what kept pulling Boosie back into the situation. No matter how many times he said he was done, Boosie's tone had shifted. He wasn't sounding like an op anymore. He was starting to sound more like an OG who's been through the same struggle and can see somebody else heading straight for the same trap. The most powerful example of that came when Kodak caught a new charge, and the details of his arrest started spreading online. Boosie talked about it in an interview, and the way he handled it said everything. It was that perfect mix of dark humor and real concern.
I've been around them dudes who...
The same energy that's defined his whole side of this long-running feud. The reports that dropped about Kodak's arrest were straight up wild. Boosie went over what was being said, and the picture he painted sounded like something between heartbreaking and unbelievable. You could tell he was genuinely shocked by what he was hearing. At one point, he even admitted he was lost for words, and that's rare for Boosie. He said the whole story had all the ingredients to blow up online, like the internet was about to run it into the ground just for entertainment. But even while he laughed at how crazy the whole thing sounded, you could see the switch flip in real time. Boosie caught himself mid-sentence, the jokes faded, and what came out next was real emotion. The laughter turned into a kind of silence that said way more than words ever could. What replaced it was something heavy. The sound of genuine sadness from a man who's seen this kind of fall before and knows how it ends if somebody doesn't step in. That constant push and pull between clowning the situation and seeing it as another man's lowest point has been the same tension running through Boosie's side of this beef since day one. He's cracked jokes about Kodak, roasted him on camera, and called him out more times than fans can count. But even with all that, Boosie's also said again and again that deep down, he just wants to see Kodak get right. Now, whether that concern is 100% real or partly for show, that's something people keep debating. Some fans think Boosie's being genuine. Others say he's milking it for attention.
Hey, I've been getting my fans on my ass. Everybody in my DM talking about speak on the thugger shit.
But one thing's for sure, he's never stopped saying it. Boosie always claims his intentions come from a place of tough love, not hate. Then came the moment that turned this whole situation from serious to flat out surreal. Right after his arrest, Kodak jumped on Instagram Live to address the cocaine allegations himself. Everyone was expecting a calm explanation, but what came out of his mouth had people more confused than the mugshot that started it all. It was wild. The internet exploded instantly, clips flying everywhere, memes dropping nonstop, timelines flooded. Nobody could tell if Kodak was trolling, serious, or just spiraling. The whole thing turned into chaos overnight, and fans couldn't look away for a second.
When it's time for me to speak on anything, I'm gonna speak on it. Whoever put me on their couch, bro, I'm a hoping, bro. I'm gonna speak on it, I'm gonna tell how I feel.
Kodak's whole defense turned into pure chaos. He denied using coke, but casually admitted to taking meth and perks. That clip went viral instantly, becoming the moment that summed up everything critics had been shouting about for years when it came to his judgment. It was wild because somehow his own explanation made the original accusation look small compared to what he actually said. The rebuttal was so confusing that it completely buried whatever point Kodak was trying to make. Of course, Boosie didn't let that one slide. When he reacted, you could feel the frustration in his voice, like he was watching somebody he once respected slowly crash out while still claiming they were in control. He looked and sounded like a man who'd seen this same story play out too many times before. Even with all the beef between them, the diss tracks, the back and forth interviews, the social media chaos, Boosie held firm on one thing. His stance on Kodak's substance issues wasn't about clout or attention, it was about pattern recognition. He wasn't just talking crazy for views, he was saying, "I've seen this before and I know where it leads." That line hits because it shows Boosie holding two totally different positions at the same time, and somehow being okay with both. He's beefing with Kodak, no question, but he's also worried about him. To Boosie, those two things don't cancel each other out. He can think Kodak's wild for dissing him 1 minute and still think he needs help the next. And in his mind, posting both those thoughts online isn't hypocritical, it's honest. Then Boosie went even deeper, explaining exactly how he knew something was off. He broke down little details he'd noticed watching Kodak's interviews, the shifts in his body language, the way he moved, the signs that anyone who's been close to that life would recognize instantly. It was like Boosie wasn't just speaking as a rival anymore, but as someone who had lived through the same darkness and could see the warning signs plain as day. Boosie wasn't talking like some outsider who Googled a few symptoms. He was speaking from experience. You could tell he recognized the signs because he'd seen them before, not just in people around him, but in himself during his darkest days. He mentioned seeing Kodak on shows like Drink Champs and No Jumper, and the way Kodak carried himself on camera only confirmed what Boosie's gut had been screaming all along. Something wasn't right.
Boosie, man. If somebody gotta put me on that couch, better do that.
Then Boosie said the most revealing thing of the entire interview. He straight up admitted that he had once been in that same dark space. He talked about his own past, saying he used to be on PCP, angel dust, and how he saw the same patterns in Kodak's behavior and speech that he once saw in himself. That honesty hit different. That moment changed everything. What started as one man calling another out turned into something way deeper. It became a reflection. It was Boosie looking at Kodak and, in a way, seeing his younger self staring right back at him. That kind of vulnerability doesn't usually show up in rap beefs. It was raw, real, and almost haunting. Whether Kodak understood it like that or not, nobody knows. But for Boosie, this wasn't about scoring points or stacking views, it was about recognition. The drug talk was never just ammo for a diss track. It was something that hit personal. Boosie wasn't just calling Kodak out, he was trying to hold up a mirror, hoping maybe Kodak would see what he once had to face himself. That right there, that was the beating heart of Boosie's frustration. Watching somebody with raw God-given talent throw it all away, chasing the wrong highs, knowing there's nothing you can do but talk about it. It ate at him. He'd seen that story too many times. Gifted artist choosing the substances over stability, success, and sanity. And all he could do was watch it happen in slow motion. But then came another twist, one that brought a whole new kind of poison into the mix. If the drug issue was the emotional core of this entire feud, the snitching drama that came later was pure venom. The moment the streets heard whispers about Young Thug's situation, everything shifted. In September 2025, the rumors started flooding timelines. Talk that Young Thug might have cooperated during his RICO case. It was a wild claim that immediately split the entire rap world in half. Some believed it instantly. Others refused to even say the word snitch in the same sentence as thug. The debates were brutal, social media was on fire, and every outlet was jumping in to give their take. And right in the middle of that storm, Kodak stepped forward and added fuel to it all. He went public, questioning why Boosie, of all people, had stayed so quiet about it. He basically said, "Ain't you the one who always calls out the fake and the phony? So why you silent now?" It was a bold move, calling out a man known for never holding his tongue. That one comment flipped the spotlight straight onto Boosie. To some, Kodak was exposing hypocrisy. To others, he was stirring the pot for attention. But no matter how people took it, one thing was clear. Kodak had just poked the bear again, and the energy around their feud was about to turn toxic all over again. Now that was a calculated move if there ever was one. Kodak wasn't just tossing out a random question for conversation, he was going straight for Boosie's brand. For years, Boosie had built his name on being the one who says what everyone else is scared to say. The unfiltered voice of the streets, the guy who never bites his tongue no matter who's involved. So when one of the biggest snitching rumors in modern hip-hop history dropped and Boosie stayed completely silent, Kodak saw an opening and took it. He wasn't just poking fun, he was pressing buttons. Kodak wanted to know what happened to all that keep it real energy. The message was clear as day. Either Boosie was too scared to speak on this one, or maybe his real talk wasn't as consistent as he made it seem. Kodak was basically calling him out, saying Boosie could go hard on him all day, but when it came to someone with real power or heavy street ties, suddenly the loudest voice in the room went quiet. That jab hit deep. Of course, Boosie wasn't gonna let that fly. He clapped back with a long post on X, Twitter, coming at Kodak from every direction at once. He brushed off Kodak's comments and flipped the script, accusing him of still being salty over old remarks from years back. Boosie said this wasn't about Thug or about any code. This was Kodak still holding on to resentment from that 6ix9ine collab drama. He painted Kodak as emotional, a dude who couldn't let go of the past, and said the only reason he was bringing Boosie's name up again was because he still felt some type of way. Boosie basically made it sound like Kodak wasn't fighting for truth or respect, he was fighting ghosts from his own mistakes. Boosie made it crystal clear. He speaks when he wants, about what he wants, and nobody, especially not Kodak, gets to tell him otherwise. He said flat out that he doesn't take orders from anybody breathing. But Boosie didn't stop at brushing Kodak off. He came swinging for real this time. In a move that shocked fans, Boosie went straight for Kodak's pride, claiming that Kodak had checked into PC, protective custody, while he was locked up. Now, in the culture they both come from, both the streets and behind the wall, that's one of the heaviest accusations you can throw. PC is seen as waving the white flag, a way of saying you couldn't handle general population and needed to be separated just to stay safe. It's the kind of label that sticks forever, no matter if it's true or not. In the court of public opinion, once that rumor's out there, it doesn't wash off. It stains your name like ink, and Boosie knew exactly what he was doing by blasting that to the world. He was throwing a haymaker, a reputation hit that could follow Kodak for life. But Boosie didn't stop there. He came for Kodak's career too, with zero mercy and zero sugarcoating. He said Kodak's whole run had been spiraling downhill ever since the 6ix9ine collab, and claimed that people would end up remembering him more for his addictions than his talent. It was cold, brutal honesty. Boosie didn't try to dress it up or play nice. Still, Boosie didn't pretend his motives were pure either. He admitted straight up that some of this was personal, that Kodak had rubbed him the wrong way too many times, and at this point, he was just matching energy. In his mind, if Kodak wanted war, Boosie was gonna give him one. No filters, no apologies, and no backing down. Boosie didn't sugarcoat a thing. He said straight up that when he jumps into public conversations, it's for a bag. If someone cuts him a check to speak on their platform, he'll show up, drop his take, and keep it moving. It was a raw admission, but also a smart one, because by framing his silence on the Young Thug situation as a business decision instead of a moral issue, Boosie dodged Kodak's accusation and flipped the narrative completely. He basically told the world, I don't move for free, and if you want my words, you gotta pay for them. That move was both cold and calculated. Boosie was letting everyone know that he's not about to give Kodak free promo or feed the beef online without a reason. His time, his opinions, his energy, they all come with a price tag. And in Boosie's mind, Kodak wasn't worth the rate. He later spoke more about it on camera, admitting he'd been catching heat from every direction. Fans, bloggers, other rappers. Everybody had something to say about his silence. Boosie just laughed it off, standing firm on his stance that he moves on his own terms, not according to anybody else's expectations. Boosie was catching serious pressure from all sides. Even his own fan base was coming for him hard. Social media had his mentions flooded, his DMs blowing up non-stop, everybody tagging him and demanding he finally speak on the Young Thug case. But Boosie didn't panic. He stayed calm and strategic. He said he'd speak on it when the time was right and only on his own terms. Not because the internet was barking orders at him. That moment showed exactly how Boosie operates. He moves on his own clock. He made it clear that no fan, no rapper, and definitely not Kodak was going to control when or how he speaks. Still, you could tell Boosie knew this was a heavy topic, one he couldn't ignore forever. He just wasn't about to rush it for clicks or give a messy IG live rant just to please the timeline. Then he dropped a line that summed it all up perfectly. That's Boosie, bro. When somebody gotta put me on that couch, you better do. Translation, he needed the right platform and the right space before he spoke on something that deep. He wanted it to be real, not just internet noise. Meanwhile, Kodak kept that snitching theme alive like a running headline. Every time Boosie stayed quiet, Kodak would slide back in with another jab, pushing that same button over and over, like he knew that word carried power, and he wasn't letting it fade. In his response video, Kodak doubled down on that snitching label. He flipped the whole word to fit his own meaning. He said Boosie was snitching, not by working with the cops, but by constantly speaking on his personal life in public. Kodak accused Boosie of exposing him in little ways. Every time he mentioned his habits, his struggles, or his mindset on camera, Kodak saw that as breaking the code. To Kodak, it was simple. When Boosie went on podcasts or social media talking about his issues, that was betrayal. In his world, putting another man's private business out there for the world to watch and comment on was snitching, plain and simple. It wasn't about law enforcement, it was about loyalty and respect. That accusation flipped their entire feud upside down. Suddenly, this wasn't just about who was right about the 6ix9ine collab or who was winning the back and forth. It became something deeper. It turned into a question of principles. What do you really owe another man in terms of privacy? Even when both of you live in the public eye, Kodak felt Boosie had crossed a sacred line, breaking the very street code they both claimed to live by. But Boosie saw it differently. In his mind, he wasn't snitching at all. He thought he was just saying out loud what everybody could already see for themselves. To him, the videos, the interviews, the behavior, it was all public already. He wasn't exposing anything new, he was just reacting to what was already out there. That's what made this feud so personal, because both sides were right in their own way. Boosie believed he was being real. Kodak believed he was being disrespected, and neither one was backing down. The tension kept boiling, every post, every lyric, every jab adding more heat to the fire. Then came the next chapter, January 2026. Right before that wild Texas moment in February, Boosie and Kodak took the beef back to the booth. The final major escalation came through music. Both of them had something to say, and this time they were ready to settle it the old school way, through bars. The medium, the one place both these men know best, music. It's where respect is earned and reputations are destroyed. And history shows that once rap beefs hit the booth, there's no turning back. On January 7th, 2026, Kodak Black dropped a new track called Christmas Eve. And this one wasn't coded, subtle, or polite, it was war. Kodak went straight for Boosie's name, leaving zero room for confusion about who he was talking about. The shots were direct and personal. Kodak didn't dance around it, he came swinging. One of the lines that instantly blew up online was, "Fuck that lame Boosie," looking down on a young one getting skrilla. I used to look up to Boosie. He hate I got more bread. That old head stupid. Those bars hit like thunder. Within a few seconds, Kodak managed to pack in everything their entire feud stood for. The respect he once had, the pain behind it, and the bitterness that came after. That I used to look up to Boosie line wasn't just a lyric, it was a dagger. A reminder that what once came from admiration had now turned into open contempt. Kodak flipped a genuine memory into a weaponized confession, saying he once admired Boosie, but now saw him as bitter and jealous. The bread reference stung even more because it hit right at Boosie's pride, accusing him of hating on Kodak's success instead of celebrating it. It was the ultimate statement. The student had officially turned on the teacher. The reverence was gone, and Kodak made sure everyone heard it loud and clear. That bar, "I used to look up to Boosie," became a cultural moment, a public declaration that whatever mentorship or respect had once existed between them was dead and buried. From that point forward, it wasn't just a feud, it was personal legacy warfare. Kodak's diss alone was enough to spark chaos, but the timing of its drop, that's what really sent Boosie into orbit. Christmas Eve hit the streets on January 7th, 2026, and Boosie's federal gun sentencing was scheduled just 2 days later on January 9th. The overlap was too close to ignore. Boosie took it as a direct hit, a calculated move meant to mess with his head right before the biggest day of his legal battle. Now, whether Kodak actually planned it that way or not didn't even matter anymore. Once Boosie decided it was personal, the facts were irrelevant. In his mind, Kodak was trying to throw him off balance when he was already under maximum pressure. So on January 8th, just a day later, Boosie fired back, and it was nuclear. He jumped on X Twitter and unloaded in all caps the online version of screaming across the block with a bullhorn. He called Kodak a clout-chasing crackhead, combining every insult he'd ever thrown about Kodak's habits and motives into one brutal label. Boosie claimed that the only reason Kodak even dropped the diss was because he was desperate for attention, not because there was any real beef left to fight. He was basically saying Kodak wasn't rapping from emotion. He was rapping for views. Boosie didn't stop there. He tore into Kodak's entire image. He wrote that Kodak's music was trash, his look was washed up, and his career was finished. He went as far as saying the only time anyone even remembered Kodak existed was when his name got attached to Boosie or Young Boy Never Broke Again. That's how far the disrespect went. And when Boosie typed, "You know what I got going?" that hit differently. He was reminding Kodak that he was literally about to face sentencing, trying to make it clear that dropping that track right before court wasn't just petty, it was malicious. To Boosie, that timing wasn't random. It was war strategy. The all-caps rant became the talk of the internet. Fans split down the middle, timelines exploding with debates. Some said Boosie was justified in snapping, others thought he was proving Kodak's point about being too emotional. But one thing was undeniable. After that post, there was no going back. The tension between them had gone from competitive to combustible. That final jab from Boosie, claiming Kodak needed to say his name just to get any buzz, was a lethal hit. It wasn't just an insult, it was a full-blown dagger aimed at Kodak's credibility. Boosie basically said the whole beef wasn't even real, that Kodak had manufactured it from the start just to get attention. In Boosie's version of the story, this wasn't two equals going at it. It was a washed-up artist trying to use his name as clickbait. He painted Kodak like a clout chaser whose career had fallen off so hard that the only move left was to attack someone with a bigger name and ride the wave. Whether or not the charts and streaming numbers actually backed that up didn't matter much, because as a rhetorical power play, it worked perfectly. It stripped Kodak of legitimacy and made it seem like Boosie was the one standing tall while Kodak was just reaching. That January exchange lit up every corner of the internet. Suddenly, hip-hop circles were debating not just the beef, but legacy itself. Fans were arguing over who really mattered more to the South, Boosie or Kodak, who had the stronger catalog, who had influenced the streets more. The conversations got heated. Some fans stood behind Boosie, saluting him for keeping it brutally real and refusing to sugarcoat Kodak's behavior. They saw his tough talk not as hate, but as a kind of hard truth. The tough love that hip-hop's elders should be giving the next generation. They said Boosie wasn't just dissing, he was teaching, but others weren't so sure. They felt like Boosie was punching down, turning mentorship into mockery. Either way, one thing was certain, this feud had officially evolved past music. It had become a generational clash. One side fighting to protect the code, and the other fighting to prove they no longer needed anyone's approval. Not everybody was siding with Boosie. Far from it. Plenty of folks online started calling him weird for being so obsessed with a younger man's personal life. They pointed out that Boosie himself had a long history of his own drama, legal issues, public scandals, and beefs, and said he didn't have the moral authority to be preaching to anybody. To them, Boosie wasn't mentoring, he was meddling. Then came February 2026, the Texas footage that brought everything full circle. Kodak hit the stage looking completely off balance, moving slow and needing security to hold him up. Reports said he showed up 9 hours late to the event, and within hours, the clip exploded all over the internet. And Boosie's reaction? Just 5 words. Dude need help for real. Those 5 words summed up 3 straight years of chaos. Every diss track, every interview, every accusation about drugs, clout chasing, and snitching, it all circled back to the same message Boosie had been pushing since day one, that Kodak needed to get right. Boosie even doubled down when the video went viral, saying again that the rapper needed help. Whether you love him or hate him, that part of his stance has been consistent from the very start. Boosie sees himself not just as a rival in this mess, but as someone trying to sound an alarm that nobody in Kodak's circle seems willing to ring. But depending on who you ask, that concern hits 2 totally different ways. To some, Boosie's being real, a vet trying to wake up someone who's spinning out before it's too late. To others, it's self-serving, A way to make himself look righteous while keeping Kodak's name tied to his own. Either way, the tension hasn't cooled off one bit. As of now, the beef between Boosie, Badazz, and Kodak Black is still wide open. No end in sight. Kodak keeps telling Boosie to mind his business, while Boosie keeps saying he's just telling the truth. Meanwhile, the internet can't look away, picking sides, dropping memes, and replaying every bar from a feud that started over a collaboration with a rat and turned into something way deeper, way more personal, and way harder to kill. So what do you think? Was Boosie really speaking out of genuine concern for Kodak, trying to wake him up before it's too late? Or did he go too far, crossing a line by calling Kodak out in front of the whole world instead of keeping it private? This one's got fans divided, and honestly, both sides make strong points. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Whose side are you on in this wild saga? Was Boosie being real or just reckless? Let's talk about it. And if you're locked in with this story and want more breakdowns on hip-hop's biggest feuds and moments, hit that next card on your screen. We've got more heat coming up next.